Just waiting on YouTube here. And we're ready to go. So here we go. Well, hey there, everybody, and welcome to AMC Jedi Council, the show here on AMC, obviously, where all we're going to do today is talk about Star Wars and all things Star Wars. I want to, first of all, introduce myself. My name is John Campy. I'm the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, and joining me today is a couple of guys, both via Skype. First of all the way up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, he is the co-founder of Red 5 Comics and the former director of Lucas Online, Mr. Paul Enns. Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, John. Never tell me the odds.
And also joining us, of course, from his hidden rebel base is AMC's own Mr. Christian Harloff. Christian, how you doing?
Pretty good, and I always shoot first.
And I always shoot first. I have no tagline. I'm the guy left out because I'm the one with no tagline. Okay, that's fine. So anyway, guys, let's. We've got a few stories we're going to talk about today. We got a couple things we want to go over. Well, hey there, everybody, and welcome. I'm getting to a AMC feedback loop. Jedi. Okay, don't worry, I fixed it. Everything's okay, everybody. So anyway, we got a few things we want to talk about today, including some stuff. Obviously, there's the Gareth Edwards news, a bunch of stuff like that. We're going to talk about all this stuff for a few minutes, and then we're going to throw it open to you guys to dictate where we go with the show, because we want you guys to tweet to us. And here's where you can tweet us. Send out a tweet to the hashtag AMC Jedi Council. So just tweet out a question using the hashtag AMC Jedi Council. Christian's going to be keeping his eye on that, and then we will hopefully have time to get to your question. But for now, we got a few things going on here. Christian, let's start with this Gareth Edwards things. For those people who don't know what's going on, catch us up to speed.
Gareth Edwards, the director of the big hit, literally, Godzilla.
Literally the big hit.
Literally the big hit. He was just signed on to do the first spin-off Star Wars film that will be released in 2016, a year after we get Episode 7. And there's a lot of, from what I'm gathering, I'm seeing more positive reactions than negative. And that's also, we live in a town of what have you done for me lately? The guy has just put together a big hit with, I guess, $93 million on Godzilla. It brought back Godzilla to prominence. For me, I wasn't the biggest Godzilla fan in regards to the script. I thought what he did visually was incredible. The ending of Godzilla blew me away. And I think with a cool Star Wars script, I actually think that he's going to do a tremendous job. I'm just very curious to what the subject matter will be.
And there's also some words out about the writer of the film. So who's going to be writing this new Star Wars spinoff?
Oh, you know what? It's someone.
Whedon.
It's
yes,
Gary Whitta.
Gary Whitta,
who did Book of Eli.
Right. And that it's funny that you say that, because the fact that when I was reading over that, Gary Whitta did Book of Eli and those movies, he's got a darker tone to him. So it goes back to what we were talking about last week. Do you guys think that we're getting Boba Fett here?
Paul?
I think, I have to go off that Hasbro leak and think that probably is it. I mean, obviously Godzilla was a darker tone movie. Monsters was a darker tone movie for Gareth. So would love to see something gritty. I'm assuming that Episode 7 is probably going to start, with a JJ Light universe. So something gritty to offset, that would be great.
Yeah, I was surprised when I heard this news. As a matter of fact, I was quite surprised because, I mean, with all of the names that were batted around before when they were looking at, who's going to direct Episode 7, and a lot of the names that got mentioned that they were considering, these were all bigger, more established names. I mean, and you're talking about the biggest of the big leagues here in stepping up to direct a Star Wars film. I really did like what he did with Godzilla. I mean, I really did. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of studios have been looking to work with this guy ever since Monsters. They love the way he handled that. And I think the way he handled Godzilla was really quite good. I was really impressed. Now, I wasn't totally thrilled with the performance he got out of Aaron Taylor Johnson. And to me, that is the most important job of the director is getting the best performances out of your actors that you can. But there's a lot more to it than just that. And overall, I thought the performances of everybody in the film was really quite solid, other than that one. And even the Aaron Taylor-John's performance, I thought was okay. So seeing a guy like that step into a Star Wars spinoff, a dude that now clearly has, not only is he a great storyteller, but he's also got massive blockbuster big visual effects experience under his belt. He understands how to work in this medium. And let's face it, that's something you got to have if you're going to make a modern Star Wars movie. So after my initial shock and my initial surprise, I got to tell you, I settled into this thing of comfort. I'm comfortable with this. Am I jumping up and down about his selection as the director? No. But I'm quite okay with it. I'm very comfortable with it, and I'm excited to see where he's coming. Christian, if you had any major concerns about Edwards directing this, what would they be?
I think kind of going back on what you said with the Aaron Taylor-Johnson part, like, again, in what he did with Godzilla is that the beginning started off so great, and then I know that it's the build-up. I get that it was the whole point, it was the build-up to Godzilla, but the characters of Aaron Taylor-Johnson particularly was not engaging enough for me to be on board the whole time. And I hope that the script that Gary Whitta comes up with is able to do what Edwards does so well visually, that we get both a great character piece, because it would be nice because if it is Boba Fett, we need to really learn a lot more about him, the world, the underworld, because this is the first time we're really going away from the Jedis and Sith in the movies, in the 6 movies. This is a totally different thing. So he is going to be responsible for introducing us, for those non-hardcore fans, what else is out there in the Star Wars universe. So my only concern would be that it doesn't plot along and it gets us into it. We get a lot of good character development, and like you said before, John, whoever the actors are, that he's with them hands-on and just getting the best performances possible.
Paul, any concerns with you?
A couple concerns. I mean, one is that I really wanted to see, if we ever got a Boba Fett film, I really wanted it to be like The Godfather set in the Star Wars universe, like really underworld, very character, slow pace, taking our time. Star Wars movies are always at a very, very rapid pace. I kind of wanted the underworld one to be slow, which is obviously, Godzilla was building to crescendo, and same with monsters. So those are the 2 examples I have. The other concern I have would be with Gary. Don't know anything much about Gary other than that Book of Eli wasn't my favorite film either, and that seems to be his big credit. I do have a little bit of insider knowledge that he has been working at Lucasfilm for several months now, that this isn't dropped on the plate, that this has been in the works and we just haven't learned about it. So hopefully he is being brought into a fold. I'm hoping that the story group that we know has been established there has probably a lot of the major beats and a lot of the major tones figured out for all 6 films that they're working on. So I guess we'll wait and see, but I'm like you, John. I'm not jumping up and down.
So and I got to agree with you. I'm not a huge fan of Book of Eli. I thought there were some very strong points about it. I thought the concept was rather interesting. Overall, not a big fan. I'm not sure how much of that was the script's fault, though. I'd have to watch it again. It's been a long time. But Paul, you mentioned something really interesting. You said that Gary, you've been hearing that Gary has been on this and been at Lucasfilm for a couple of months already. What do you guys think is the likelihood that Edwards has also been connected to this for a number of months, and they're already well into the stages of putting this thing together?
Well, I think it's definitely been a while, because you have to assume once Godzilla was ready to be screened, and then the studios got their hands on our people. It's like baseball scouts. You start scouting right away and seeing who's out there, who's the guy, and they're hearing about Godzilla. Godzilla was starting to get some big press even last year at Comic-Con, and then they get their hands on it and they realize this kid is the goods. Let's sit down with him. Let's figure out what his take is. And yeah, I think it was probably a couple of months, and then once Godzilla was the hit that it was, they released the information and backed their investment.
I mean, at some point, you got to believe, though, this does make sense that Whit has been involved for already a couple of months, because we forget 2016 is not far away. It's ridiculously close. Like Batman versus Superman is coming out in 2016, and they're already on set shooting this thing. So I mean, Edwards has had to have been attached to this for a while. What has had to have been attached for this for a while? But okay, let's call it out now on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being the most improbable, 10 being the most probable. Christian, let's start with you. The chances that the first spin-off film is indeed going to be a Boba Fett movie.
9.5.
Oh, you're pretty certain about it.
Yeah, especially with this team. This team, it's a dark, like we said, Gareth Edwards has this dark thing about him so far in both movies that he's done of prominence, and then you have Whedon, who again, his biggest hit, like Paul said, was Book of Eli, dark film. You assume Boba Fett's going to be in this dark world. It seems to make sense. This is the first one.
Paul, what about you? Scale of 1 to 10 of probability that the next film is, the first, I should say, spin-off film is going to be a Boba Fett movie.
So people who've been listening to Jedi Council since the beginning know that in the very first episode I said my favorite character is Boba Fett. So this is going to be a little weird, but I am going with 7 out of 10. And I'm kind of hoping that we don't start there. I'm kind of hoping first, I want to see Disney surprise us and come out of left field and come at us with something that we don't expect. Will I be thrilled if there's a Boba Fett movie? Of course. I don't think this Disney team has enough of a pattern for us to say slam dunk. This is what's going on.
So then, if it's not, let's go for some possibilities here. Let's say, for argument's sake, that the next film isn't going to be Boba Fett. Okay, or let's ask the question: if the next one isn't Boba Fett, if the first spin-off film is not a Boba Fett movie, Christian, let's start with you. What is the most likely that it'll be?
Probably Han Solo again too, just because, like we just said before, is that you believe when the rumors come out as much as they do from as much credible sources as they have been, you assume that the Boba Fett and the Han Solo movies are the ones. So if it's not Boba Fett, I would assume it is the Han Solo film, which I don't think they're going to do that yet, because I think it's going to things have to happen in this new trilogy first. And what I'm getting at there is I think the Han Solo death. I don't know. It's possible, but I don't think so. Not likely.
Paul?
Well, I kind of reversed my decision on this one because, boy, if you think about the things that have been rumored, the Han Solo, the Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Yoda, the kind of things that make the most sense, those all seem to fit less with the team. So, I mean, if I have to pick something that isn't Boba Fett, let's go with Obi-Wan Kenobi doing some really cool stuff, battling some really cool monsters on Tatooine.
So let's, if this is going to be a Boba Fett movie that Edwards and Wood are actually putting together right now, let's assume for a second it is. What do you think the chances are of Temuera Morrison coming back and actually reprising the role? I mean, since Boba is a clone, a pure clone of Jango, what are the chances they actually get Morrison to come back and play the role, or do they go in a different direction at this point?
I think they're going to go in a different direction because, without so much saying it, they're going to try to get away from all relations to the prequels. And, granted that it's part of the timeline, but I think we'll be, not giving away too many X-Men spoilers, but the way we were forgiving a certain inconsistencies in X-Men because of that, I think we're going to be able to do the same thing with Star Wars if it pertains to the prequels. And I think replacing Boba Fett is one of those things we'll be okay with.
Paul?
I don't know if you guys remember Daniel Logan, who played Little Kid.
Right.
But I don't know if you've seen him at conventions recently. He's about 19, 20 right now. That kid is ripped. Looks great. I think he would have to be at least interviewed for the job. I also think that if we get a Boba Fett movie, a guy with a helmet on his head, no offense to Iron Man or whatever, I mean, you can't have a whole movie with just that guy. I think it's got to be a huge ensemble piece. It's got to be a lot of people. Boba Fett, if Boba Fett movie gets us that criminal Star Wars movie that we're looking for, maybe that's okay. And maybe Boba Fett isn't on screen as much as, say, Robert Downey Jr. is in Iron Man. Maybe he's just part of the team.
All right, well, there you go. I think that's a very interesting idea, by the way, of going and getting that kid to play, because, I mean, it's him. So why not? I mean, I don't know if he can act anymore, but I mean, it's a really interesting option. Okay, so guys, you guys sent in some options before. What are some other topics we should be talking about today?
Well, I know the one I want to get into, but Paul doesn't want to talk about it.
Oh, well, let's get into it.
There was a very cool.
Wait a second before you say anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody in the chat board, anybody want to venture a guess what Christian wants to bring up? And by the way, I should mention that Ratnick in the chat board is saying, "Dear heavens, just break the bank and get Martin Scorsese in to do it himself." A couple other people say, "Dear heavens, please get Steven Spielberg to do a spinoff," all that kind of stuff. So anyway, Christian, let's get to your thing. I don't know which character you might be bringing up, but what did you want to bring up?
It's this little character. I don't know if you guys ever heard me talk about it, Darth Plagueis. They wrote an article. There's a site that I go to, StarWars7News.com, where they take stories that are breaking all over the net about Star Wars. And this guy had wrote up something about Darth Plagueis and how the pros and cons of why he might be in Episode 7. And the pros outweighed the cons. And one of the things I thought was so intriguing was the novel that was written by James Luceno. I didn't realize how hands-on George Lucas was to that novel. And, and while we're off camera, Paul had mentioned to me that how protective Lucas has been of that storyline. So it's fascinating to me of all the way that it all could connect from Episode 3 now to Episode 7 if Darth Plagueis turns out to be the main villain, because Max von Sydow has been rumored to be a voice. It would be very interesting if they keep to this fact that being the fact that George Lucas made Darth Plagueis, he requested him be immune, the species immune. That to me makes it seem that there may be a voiceover and Sydow will play him.
Paul, you think it's a possibility?
It's possible. As was mentioned, George was very protective of that Darth Plagueis and character and not wanting anyone to delve too deeply into it until the movies had quite a bit of time to rest. The thing that I would say is the detraction from that being possible is that we know that the outlines for 7, 8, and 9 were written back in the 70s. Like, before Episode 4 came out, he split the thing into 9 movies. And so the outline for this predates all that. So depending on which source material they take as more recent and more exciting, I mean, that probably wasn't the original pitch for 7, 8, and 9. So it's possible, but I'd love to see what was originally in that vault.
All right, guys. Well, we said we would leave some time here in the show to take your guys' questions. So now is the time. If you are watching us live and you want to throw in some questions here for AMC Jedi Council, get on Twitter right now. Start firing off questions to with the hashtag AMC Jedi Council. Christian's monitoring the Twitter board. So, Christian, do we got any questions in there already?
Yeah, we got some good ones. At not EFRENT. Do you think they should embrace the double-bladed lightsaber more in the new movies?
That's an interesting, it was so signature of Maul, that lightsaber, and I don't know that they're going to want to trample on that. I mean, because the double-bladed lightsaber is such a signature now in Star Wars movie history of that character. I mean, it's synonymous with Darth Maul. So I would say no. I hope they don't use it again. I would like to see, and I don't want any flaccid Christopher Lee lightsabers either. I would much rather like to see a return to the classic lightsaber. And I would just like to see everybody have those. That's what I would like to see. What about you guys?
I think that we might see it because, if you take away one of the, even though I just kind of going against what I said before, going away from the prequels, I think that one of the cool things with the prequels, yes, it was Darth Maul, but when he takes that double-sided lightsaber out, you're just like, wow, that is such a cool tool, and you haven't really seen anybody else master it, and he didn't get to master it long enough. So maybe there's a new Jedi or a new Sith that's able to use it. It'd be interesting, but I don't, it doesn't make or break anything for me.
Paul?
You can never get that moment back where you see the first double ignition.
Yeah.
Like you'll never get that moment back, so you can't play it that way. You might just see it in the background. I really do think, unfortunately, though, that they're going to try and come up with some third new cool triple blade or nunchucks or some kind of weird
like a
lightsaber
hula hoop
variation.
lightsaber, a round lightsaber,
something terrible like that I am sure that they want to put in somewhere. I'm sure we'll see it.
All right, Christian, what else we got?
This came in, actually, it came out from my Facebook the other day that I'm sorry, I don't have the guy's name, but it was a good question that he was asking, what do you guys think? Because the way that the technology changed from, say, episode 3 to episode 4, what do we think that the technology is going to look like from episode 6 to episode 7?
Well, look, as much as I harp and trash on the prequels, it will not be nearly as much of a difference going from episode 3 into episode 7 as we had going from Return of the Jedi into the Phantom Menace. I mean, because going from Return of the Jedi into the Phantom Menace was just a chasm, just a massive chasm leap forward for the technology. But you know what? I watched a little bit of Attack of the Clones on when I was flipping through the TV station the other day, and I'm telling you, those effects were so damn good. I mean, the one thing you will never hear me knock about the prequels is the visual effects and the job that ILM did on them. That film looks gorgeous. Have things improved? Yes, but it won't be nearly as stunning of a difference of a leap as we did going from Return of the Jedi to Phantom Menace. Anyway, Paul, what do you think?
Well, I just think the most interesting thing that happened this week was the JJ's video from the set with Force for Change.
Yes.
They had that creature come walk behind him and kind of watch him, and that was obviously either a puppet or an animatronic or something. I think that really sets the tone for I'm going practical effects in camera. I think that we're going to just tonally see much closer to the original 4, 5, 6.
Christian?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to be way more. The technology is not going to change that much because they can always get away with the fact that, like, hey, time doesn't move as fast as it does like on our universe, So it's if things are still banged up from episode 6, and there's, like you said, with lightsabers here and there, they might throw some new trinkets and toys, but we might see a couple new things. Like maybe Oscar Isaac's character has some cool gadgets if he's the new space pirate or whatnot. So that would be cool to see, but nothing too extreme.
You know what would be hilarious? This is what would be hilarious. If, everybody's been talking a lot about that J.J. Abrams Force for Change announcements and the creature that comes walking back that Paul was just referencing to. And everybody's hailing, this is the trumpet sound of a return to the practical effects. Wouldn't it be an awesome kick in the pants if J.J. puts out another video and showing you the actual footage and it's just a little green screen behind him and that's actually a digitally created little creature walking behind him? I think that would be perfect.
It'd be a riot.
All right. What's next?
This is at William Parcell. Do you guys think Joss Whedon will ever direct a future Star Wars film?
You know what? I said a long time ago when they first announced that Disney bought Lucasfilm, I said one of the directors I don't think would be a good fit for the Star Wars universe is Joss Whedon. Everybody knows how huge of a Joss Whedon fan I am. But I just don't really see it as a fit. However, it's probably more plausible than most people will give it credit for. I mean, Joss has a very tight working relationship with Disney. He's obviously doing a lot of stuff with them through their Marvel division right now. He's a very hot commodity, so there's no reason why somebody like a Kathleen Kennedy wouldn't want to go after a guy like that to get him involved. I think you're going to see Star Wars with this huge universe probably try to put together an all-star team of directors and some of the hottest names, the most established guys. I think them getting Gareth Edwards is just a kind of a reinforcement of that because he's one of the hottest names in directing right now. So while I wouldn't put money on it and I wouldn't say it's probable that we'd see a Joss Whedon doing a Star Wars film, I wouldn't put money against it either because I think it's got a higher chance than most of us might want to give it credit for or might think it has. Paul, do you think there's a possibility we could see like a Joss Whedon do a Star Wars sometime?
I think so, and I wonder to what effect these agents are coming into Disney and pitching directors as well. Like these directors are saying, nudge, nudge to my agent, I want to do a Star Wars film, go talk to Disney. And I got to think that's something that Joss would have on his bucket list.
Christian?
Yeah, I think we're going to hear him heavily rumored and in negotiations a bunch of times throughout the next 10 years. We're probably, this is the one he's going to do because he's talked about it. He's a huge fan, but he's going to be tied up for a long time. So, and this is this Avengers is no small cookie. So he's got a lot on his plate. He might want to breathe for a little bit, but Star Wars is going to go on for a long time. So to say never is silly. I just don't think it's going to be within the next 10 years.
Okay. All right. What's next?
This was a good one. At Hoodzy94, do you think that there will be any political drama like there were in the prequels?
Whew. Well, I mean, like one of the things that Paul was alluding to earlier about what he'd like to see in a spin-off film, about there being some like the darker, slower paced underground kind of film. I think the Star Wars universe is actually set up in such a way that it would be great for a political thriller, much like, Captain America 3, sticking in the Disney family here, Captain America 2, I should say, Captain America 2. I remember when the directors were saying, and Kevin Feige was saying, Captain America 2 is really like an old school political thriller. And it sounded very foreign at the time. Like that didn't sound like it fit in. But then when you watch Captain America 2 and you realize that a political type thriller in that type of a container of a modern Marvel superhero film was actually fantastic. With that being said, I do think a really cool political type thriller, maybe not in the saga proper, but in one of the spin-offs, whatever, I think it could work really well. Now that I've seen Captain America 2 do it and do it so well, I think it's a possibility. Christian, what do you think?
I think you have to have politics in the new trilogy because it's a lot. One of the biggest complaints was that there was too much of it in the prequels with Palpatine, but I actually really enjoyed a lot of that stuff. I think that if the scripts were better, I think people would have been engaged in it even more, like the old Roman times, the way that they put it together. I think that it's crucial that you're going to have politics in the new ones because we don't know what's going on with the Republic, how it is today, the New Republic. We don't know what's going on with the Empire and who's running stuff over there. If there is still an Empire and, with the rumors of stormtroopers and stuff, you're going to have politics one way or another. It's just a matter of how heavily involved it is in the forefront.
Paul?
Yeah, all 6 have been about the government for whatever it's worth. And I kind of hope that Princess Leia is somewhere high up in the government. I think that's how she's going to be linked in. Just like Christian said, it's got to be in there somewhere. I'm hoping it's not about taxes.
And no Gungans.
Or trade routes.
No Gungans.
All right, let's take one more question, Christian.
Okay, great. At T. Capone 100, how much will the books and games affect the movies? Could we see storylines start in a book and finish in a movie with the new canon?
No. What you're not going to see is, it's possible you could have them loosely tied together, but what you're not going to see is a situation where in order to understand this movie, you have to have read this particular book. Because this book is really the beginning of that story, and for you to fully understand the stories, where the story picks up in this movie, you got to read the book first. Or, you're not going to see a cliffhanger in Star Wars Episode 8 and find out, and then a little title screen comes up at the end of the credits. Find out how this ends in the upcoming book, so-and-so. So will they be loosely connected? Will they be, veiled? Yeah, I believe they will because they're all taking place in the same universe. But will they be directly connected in such a way that to understand one medium, you have to be engaging in the other? I don't think they're going to make that mistake and do that. Paul, what do you think?
Well, in Episode 3, at the start of it, Palpatine has been captured by Grievous is a great example. So that was in the script. That was locked. They filmed that. Then they wanted to go ahead and do a bunch of novels. And it was like, well, how can we show how Grievous kidnapped Palpatine? Sure, go ahead. You can do that because that sets up the movie. So I think the movie's going to be the driver, and if there happens to be hooks, because a book is going to sell better if there's a hook to the movie. So if they can find a little story thread they can build on, that's great, but it won't ever be the case, as you said, where the book is driving the movie.
Christian?
Yeah, I'm on the same page, but I think that there's going to be stuff. There's going to be a lot more cool stuff now for readers and players of the games. There'll be more of those nods, like, for example, like Rebels. I think we're going to get a lot of stuff in Rebels that you don't have to watch it. Like, you won't be lost if you don't watch Rebels and then you watch Episode 7 and then something happens in a spin-off movie. But if you do, and you do read all these books, you're even caught up more as a diehard Star Wars fan. So I think that there's going to be a lot more cool stuff for fans now intertwined in those books and those games, and they're going to be more conscious of it because everything does continue into one specific timeline. But yeah, I'm with you guys that you're not going to be lost if you don't read or play the games.
All right, folks. Well, we have that's been a half hour. We're out of time here on this episode of Star Wars, or I should say AMC Jedi Council. I was going to say Star Wars Jedi Council. Thanks a lot for joining us, folks. I want to thank the guys who are joining me. First of all the way up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, Mr. Paul Enns. Paul, where can people find you online?
My pleasure, John. The best place is Twitter at Paul Enns.
And, of course, our very own Christian Harloff. Christian, where can people find you online?
Well, every week on AMC Movie Talk, as well as look for my other Star Wars podcast, Far, Far Away. You can find that on iTunes or on Geek Nation.
And you guys can follow me on all the various social media networks just at John Campia. Thanks for watching AMC Jedi Council. My name's John Campia for AMC Movie News. And until next time, guys, bye-bye.